Hello there. Welcome once again to Living Our Purpose. My name is Fola Daniel Adelesi, also known as Fola Daniel Speaks. Today, I want to tell you that your flight is determined by your intake. Your flight is determined by your intake. There's a popular saying in Yoruba land that whatever the bird eats is what will help or sustain the flight of the bird. In other words, a bird can only go as far as the energy it has gotten from the food that it has consumed. So as a human being as well, your flight is determined by your intake. You know about aeroplanes, and you know that aeroplanes can only fly as long as they have fuel in them. If they don't have fuel in them, they would have to land and buy fuel again, or they have to land and top up again. Because if you don't have fuel, there is no way you can continue to fly. If you try to continue to fly without having enough fuel to fly, you would have an accident. The plane is going to start descending. So the question is, what exactly are you taking in, knowing that your flight is determined by your intake? There are two kinds of intake, or there are two ways your intake can affect your flight. There is the kind of intake that will hinder your flight, and there is the kind of intake that will spoil your flight. There is the kind of intake that will slow down your flight. There is the kind of intake that will accelerate your flight. If you want to fly high in life, if you want to soar, you need to take the things that will accelerate your flight and not the things that will decelerate or slow down your flight. If you eat certain things, they will bring you down. But if you eat some other things, they will take you up. So when we talk about your flight being determined by your intake, we're talking about how much knowledge you're putting into yourself. We're talking about your mental capacity. We're talking about how you build yourself, how you work hard, how you study, how you learn from other people. That's the kind of intake I'm talking about. Who's your mentor? Who's your coach? Who is the person that is guiding you, doing one or two things to be able to make sure that you succeed? Take a look at athletes. Every athlete has a coach. No matter the skill that they have, no matter the speed that seems to be inbuilt, they still need a coach to help them succeed. So what kind of intake do you have by the virtue of the people mentoring you, the people coaching you, the books you're reading, the environment you live in? Because you need to remember that your flight is determined by your intake. The other thing is that you may even have the right intake, but the question is, are you having that intake in the right volume? Are you consuming the right proportion? Because if you're eating right and you're still not eating the right volume, you will become weak after a short time. So you can't just take something and say, oh, I've taken all I need. The question is, how much do you need to sustain your flight? And where you're going will determine the volume of fuel that you need. If you're driving a car, for example, and you're just going to a short distance, maybe about 10 kilometers, if you have 4 liters of fuel in your car, of course, it will take you to 10 kilometers and bring you back. But if you're going to travel to another state, maybe 7 states away from where you live, depending on your country, you realize that you need more fuel, and you cannot rely on 10 liters, 20 liters, or just 1 gallon of fuel. You will need a lot more to take you to your destination. In fact, somewhere along the line, you may need to stop by at the gas station or the filling station and top up again, because your flight is determined by your intake. Now, the next thing I need you to do, with the understanding that your flight is determined by your intake, is to be more intentional by your intake. There are so many of you who are consuming junks on a daily basis. You're consuming junks by how much time you spend on social media. You're consuming junks by the kind of people you listen to. You're consuming junks by the kind of people that you hang out with. And if you don't change all of that, those junks will not sustain the kind of flight that you have in life. Maybe we should even ask the question, where are you flying to in life? If you determine where you're flying to, then it's easier to determine how much you need to eat and what you need to eat in order to get to the right destination. So set your destination by setting your vision, and determine your intake by asking yourself, can this thing take me to my vision? Can this person take me to my vision? Hanging out with this person, will it take me farther away from my vision or closer to my vision? If I continue with these kinds of people around me, will I be able to achieve my goals? So you need to constantly remind yourself of the kind of intake that you're taking in, so that you will be sure you are on the right path, or that intake will take you to the right destination. Your intake determines your flight. If you have the wrong intake, you will not fly anywhere. If you buy the wrong fuel into your car, you will damage the car. But if you take it out and you fix the engine and buy the right fuel, use the right oil, the car will continue to run. The engine will run smoothly. So always bear in mind that your intake determines your flight. Make sure you eat right. Make sure you fly high. And the eating right that I'm talking about here is not physical food. It's mental food. It's food that helps you prepare for your future. It's creating pictures of where you're going to, hanging out with the right people, working with them, learning from them, doing everything that keeps you on the path to your vision. And so long as you're doing that, then you can rest assured that you will arrive safely. Again, don't forget that your flight is determined by your intake. So the question is, do you have enough intake to sustain the flight to your destination in life? Thank you for listening, and head on out to www.foladanielspeaks.com and also check out my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Fola Daniel Speaks. Thank you.